Ta-da! Hello, I am Mare. This is NiteMare Bliss, where I usually do unboxings and makeup and skincare and all that crap. But today is Tag Free Tuesday, and I have a special guest. Tag Free, No Tag Tuesday is so much more fun when you have somebody to do it with. Like, answer questions with. Because, it's me just answering, and I'm going to, So it's kind of cool to, bounce things off each other. And also maybe you'll jog my memory with some of these. So this is called To the Max Tag. There are 10 questions, and these questions come from Jay. And are you ready? There are 10 questions.
Sure. I haven't seen these before.
No, you haven't watched the Tag Frees, have you?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
I read questions and we answer them.
Okay.
And they're questions from people in our No Tag Free group. Everyone in the group is listed in the description box. So feel free to go check them out. Check out their answers on things. Everybody doesn't always do the questions every week, but most of the time we do. So, go see what everybody has to say. Lots of different channels, lots of different kinds of content. I always say it's kind of something for everyone. Like you find, YouTube is just, there's so much out there. And you don't realize it until I just started going through some of their channels. It's just fun just to hit, different things here and there.
Right.
So fun stuff to watch. So this is called To the Max Tag, as I said. So number one question out of 10. Uh-oh, he's already yawning. You have whiskey.
Yeah.
I have a giant coffee. And we have on a salt lamp. So we may be causing some kind of cosmic disturbance with
What's the
everything
salt
going on.
lamp supposed to do?
Salt lamp's like peace, harmony, good vibes.
So is this.
Yeah, well, coffee's a little frenetic, crazy. Anyway, okay. Number one, what's the tallest building you've ever been in? I can tell you right now, all but one of these, I'm gonna have really boring answers to.
Right.
So, I have not been a lot of places. I've not done a lot of stuff. I've done some crazy stuff.
Right.
But okay, so tallest building. I think that mine is the CN Tower in, what is it, Toronto? Or whatever.
Is that a
where it
building,
Is it-
though?
or
I
CN
mean, it's a tower.
It's a tower. Tallest building. Well, I guess, yeah, if it was structure. The tallest building would be, what's that one in Chicago we went in? Where it's in Ferris Bueller, where they look out on the street.
Oh,
and
the
Sears Tower? Not the Sears.
The Sears Tower, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Sears Tower. And of course, there goes a loud car because I started recording. I would say the Sears Tower in Chicago. I think. That's the tallest I've been in.
That's probably the tallest building I've been in too. I can't recall if
It's not a thing
I can't
for me
recall
going
if
to
I've
tall
ever
buildings.
been into I
In
can't
New
recall
York?
if I've ever been into the World Trade Center. I have a feeling. I really can't remember. It would have been in the early '90s. I was there with some friends, and I can't remember if we actually went up into it, or if we were just hanging around in the lower floor area.
And what's so funny is I've been to New York City several times, and I've never gone up in any skyscrapers. I've always wanted to go up in the Empire State Building and go to the top of it. Haven't gotten around to that yet. I've just totally stayed underground in the subways and on ground level in New York City. I've never been up in anything
And
there.
I've been
so
up
that's
into the
interesting.
top of the Renaissance Center a lot.
Yeah.
There's a restaurant up there. I feel like
Yeah.
I've been up there many times.
Well, I've been there too, but that's not that high, is it? I don't think it's very high.
I think it's
not
the
as high
highest
as
building in Detroit.
Yeah, but it's not as high as the Sears Tower. So I'm
Well,
that's why-
obviously.
Well, so that's why I'm saying Sears Tower for me. But
Sears
I've
Tower
also
for me
been-
too. I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it's Sears Tower for me too.
This one is really terrible.
99%.
It's going to be 6 feet. Number 2, what is the deepest you've ever been underwater?
No, what about you?
6 feet.
6 feet?
No, I don't know because I went when I was a little kid. I went with my parents in this submarine thing in Florida.
Yeah, but that's only.
And
That's,
they got to be 12 feet or
no,
something.
It's like
even
right
lower.
underwater.
Okay.
It's like right
yeah, then
underwater.
I would say, it's got to be 6 feet or something when I've been swimming. I've never been I've ever been underwater.
Well, if you
Well,
if you
diving
dive off a dive, if you
Yeah.
well, like then I mean, you probably if you went all the way to the bottom before bounding back up, you were
Yeah.
probably like a good 10 feet under.
And also,
And those pools are like 13 feet deep if they've got.
the other thing is I have jumped off my kayak in the Delaware River.
That's
And no, the deepest parts of the Delaware, it's really deep.
yeah, but you weren't
like
underwater.
Yeah, I dived off my kayak and went underwater, and I was swimming down. You have to be really careful too, because there's an evil undertow and current there. But even then, I would say maybe that the deepest parts of the Delaware I've been in, that I've gone under, and I've hung on to the thing on my kayak just to be safe, because of is probably like 15, 20 feet. So I don't know, but that's not a big. It's not like I've ever been in a submarine or something. Okay.
Can you think of any other instance though where you've been under? Because have you been through the? Have you been in the Ambassador Bridge, or I mean the
Hudson River, under the Hudson River,
under the Hudson River, or
Yeah,
the Detroit Canadian, the Detroit
I've
Windsor
gone
Tunnel.
to the Detroit Windsor Tunnel, and I've gone
So
through
those are probably
the Hudson,
technically
the Lincoln Tunnel.
You've
into
been
New York.
further underwater in those, but
Technically,
if that means
yeah.
if the question is asking what's the deepest you've been personally, you've actually
Underwater,
been
not
submerged.
in a car.
That's completely
Yeah.
different.
All
Because
right.
then I've also
giving me
been
a
to
headache.
like the tunnel at the zoo.
Yeah.
Where you go under in the
Yeah.
new penguin cage. I think you're probably like a good 12 feet underwater.
Okay, number 3. This. We're looking way too into this. Number 3. What's the longest amount of time you've ever driven without stopping as a driver, not a passenger? That would be when Jamie and I in the 90s, mid 90s, I think, early 90s, drove to Florida, and we split the drive because it's like a long drive. It was like from Detroit to Florida. We drove from Detroit to Orlando,
Yeah.
and we split the drive. So it was like, and I remember we didn't go back and forth. Like we would literally, one of us drove until we passed out, and then we split. And I think I drove, it was, I would say, how far is that? Isn't that like a 24-hour drive from Detroit to?
It's probably 18.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I don't think
Let's
most
see.
people do it.
Hey Siri, how long does it take to drive from Detroit to Orlando, Florida? She said Detroit, Michigan. She says 16 hours, 7 minutes.
I'd buy that.
And yeah, okay. And so Siri says 16 hours, 7 minutes. But I think it took us about 24 because we stopped a lot.
Well, yeah,
and we had to
nobody
take
goes straight.
naps. And
Very
all,
few,
yeah.
very
So,
seldom
we
people.
planned about 24 hours. So that's the longest I've driven is without stopping. And we barely stopped. We didn't stay at a hotel at all.
Yeah,
we
but,
just drove straight there.
Yeah, I think the longest I've driven probably like 6 hours, in one shot.
Well, and I could say, you know what? I didn't even think about this. Every time I drive to Michigan, I drive to Michigan by myself. I don't have anyone go with me. And when I went to Lansing, it was a 10-hour drive, and I drove by myself. So I've easily driven between 8 to 10 hours going from here where I live now in Pennsylvania to
That
Michigan.
counts, yeah.
That counts. I didn't even think of that. I'm just thinking like way far us. Okay, number 4, what's the most windy weather experience you have ever seen? That's easy for me. That was a few years ago. We had a wind shear go through our backyard that I thought for sure was a tornado, and that's what ripped that whole row of trees down in my yard. There were rows that the tops of the trees were actually sheared off and thrown farther into the woods. And if you've seen my videos outside, really tall trees, huge trees, and this thing ripped and knocked over entire rows of trees. You couldn't see anything. The rain was blowing sideways, couldn't see anything. It sounded like a freight train. And the scariest thing was I heard boom, boom, like trees falling, but I couldn't see where they were falling. And I was like terrified. It was horrible. And my hubby wasn't home, so that was even worse. And then I was just like, and the trees that fell were right between me and my neighbor too. It's so that was like the worst I've ever seen. And that's happened. We've had a couple of those here, and we actually did have a tornado near here. And they said they were sure that something that went through here was like a tornado that, I forgot where it was, but in the last 5 years we've had a couple of things like that. But that one was the worst. That one that ripped all those trees down a few years ago. That was like the worst one.
I'd have to say
But-
probably I was out and about during the tornado of '97
In Michigan?
In Michigan, and I remember the sky being green and really like leaves and debris just literally going
yeah.
sideways.
Yeah.
I didn't see much like fall. Oh, like I didn't personally witness any like trees falling over,
Yeah.
phone poles falling over, but just but debris just completely going sideways. It had to be super windy. I was inside a Kmart at the time.
Oof. Okay, so number 5. What is the most snow you have ever seen? That for me, it's a toss-up, and here's why. We had a snowstorm here that I want to say was in about 20. I want to say it was after we moved here, but it was before. I want to say maybe it was 2012, and the snow was. I was like, holy crap, we live in the mountains. This is real snow. It was, I want to say probably about up to my waist almost.
Wow.
In the drifts. It was a good like over 4 feet. Like it was a lot.
Yeah.
And we had to plow. And the reason I remember it is we have a picture of Bailey, our little Italian greyhound, and we had plowed we had shoveled out and plowed trails for the dogs. And there's a picture of Bailey, and like you see him standing next to it, and the snow's like, he's like this. Say he's like, here, and the snow thing is like up. It's like multiple Baileys would have to stand on each other to like see them.
Is that
They
a
would
scale?
have to-
An
the
official snow
Bailey
scale?
scale of
The
snow.
Bailey scale.
Yeah, the Bailey scale.
I
like
can't
how many
remember-
Italian greyhounds have to stand. But then, well, I was going to say, but then in my childhood back in Michigan, we had huge snowstorms when I was a kid. Now, what I'm thinking is like when you're a kid, your memory is like, the snow
everything-
is so deep.
Yeah.
But I was also
You're
like,
smaller, too.
yeah, I was really short. So I don't know. I mean, as an adult, that was the most snow I remember is here. We've had a couple of brutal storms that the snow is easily like to my waist.
Like I can't, I feel like I don't have, because obviously there's people. My brother when he went to Northern Michigan University for his first year after high school, and he said that there were snow drifts that were that you could just like jump out the second story window and slide down. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Same thing. Like I recall Michigan winters as a kid as being very snowy, but that's probably has to do with being a kid. I remember back in what was it? Maybe 2013, 2014. There was a particularly snowy winter in Michigan, and I remember seeing like the snow drifts in parking lots because they were just constantly plowing snow. I remember there were snow drifts that like in the Meyer parking lot that had to be like 15 feet high.
Yeah.
They were just gigantic.
That's what they were like here like a couple years ago. We had
But
some bad
yeah,
snow.
but like snow, when you live in metropolitan Detroit, snow tends to get moved real quickly out of the way, so you don't.
And
see
I
a
think
lot of it.
Jeremy and I both, we're original Michiganders, and now I'm in Northeast Pennsylvania. So I think, like, if somebody who doesn't live in a snowy state and you ask them the most snow you've ever seen, they're like, "Oh my God, all this snow." To me, I'm like, snow is snow. Like
Yeah.
I've seen, I mean, I have actually seen a lot of snow because I used to ski. So I used to go to ski places where they would.
Right.
You'd have like a huge base of snow, and they'd be making snow,
Right.
and it was like gorgeous. It was really cool. I went skiing up at Sugarloaf Mountain up in northern Michigan,
Right.
like Traverse and Traverse City area and all that. Now that was a lot of snow,
Right.
but I mean, was it the most I've seen? Maybe Sugarloaf skiing. That might have been a lot. Okay. This is a weird question. Number 6. What is the most cash you've ever held in your hand?
I don't know.
I would probably say, I don't know the exact amount. It was thousands of dollars. There was like and it was like wedding gifts. When you're at a wedding and you
right.
get all the checks and you get all.
Right.
But then I had a bunch of checks too. But there was a bunch of cash too. The other thing is a lot of times when we get things done around the house, we pay cash to people. So we'll have like $2,000 or $3,000 in cash. So I would say probably the most I've ever held is like $3,000, I think.
I'd
in
say
cash.
for me,
Like,
I think maybe I think maybe like 3,600 or something. So
I just remembered something.
ah,
I used to work in the financial office at Pepsi where the
Oh.
truck drivers used to come in.
gosh, you forget all these.
Yeah. See, I'm forgetting. So, I mean, okay, but see, the most I've ever held, this was not my cash. That was my
That's
cash.
not the question,
Yeah, the
yeah.
question, if you're saying any cash,
Yes, any cash.
oh, I'm easily 12 to 15,000 just from one day from one driver. You know, they would come in with a pile of cash. So,
Yes.
because I worked in the cashier's office at Pepsi where all the truck drivers would come in. They would turn in their stack of all their invoices and all the stores they went to, and they would have all their money in their checks. And part of my job was making sure it balanced and doing all the deposits. And it was me and like 3 other people in that office.
So yeah,
So we would have easily, you know, altogether, I don't even remember how much money we had, but I remember having like stacks of like $15,000-$20,000 in cash from the drivers.
I never
easily.
had that much.
So, yeah.
yeah. I think
It's-
maybe maybe there was one time. I think when I was
Like
a
at a
little
job,
kid.
or-
No,
oh.
not even never at a job. They would let me hold money at a job. Maybe when I think one time when I was a little kid, I remember one time there were a few times that like my dad had throughout my childhood where my dad had won like the daily 3 drawing or
Oh, yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I think one time he won $5,000 and he came home and we all held
Oh,
it.
we got
Yeah.
money. And then he said, "Yeah, this is the closest you're getting to it." No.
Yeah. Well, we went to
No.
Florida. We
Did you
like
go?
ended up going
Oh,
to
you going on
Florida with that
vacation?
money, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so number 7, what's the fastest speed you've ever gone in a car? Can be driver or passenger. The fastest everyone's ever gone in a car is probably with me driving because I'm a kook. But the fastest I ever went was when I first met my hubby. He had a Mustang, and it it was really bad. I would go down. I would get on the freeway to take it, and I would get on 75 south going towards Detroit. Remember one time I just floored it, and I had to be going like on the entrance ramp. I was already going 95. So, because it's a Mustang, it was fun.
Right.
And I think the fastest I got that thing maybe was between 100 and 110, but I don't know, something like that. Yeah, I wanted to see how fast and then I'm like, okay, I need to stop because I'm going to get, like, there weren't a lot of people out or on the freeway. It wasn't that, it was that I'm like, I'm going to get busted by somebody.
Right.
And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to get a speeding ticket that high because it was a lot. I was
Yeah,
going
that you could actually get popped for reckless driving.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like-
so it's like I floored it. I went really fast. I immediately slowed down. It's like I just like floored it to see how fast I could go. And it was weird. That Mustang, like in less than 60 seconds, it was like in less than 10 seconds. I mean, it was amazing how fast you were going. Like you could go 1, 2, 3. I'm going 95 already. You know what I mean? It was nutty. So that's the fastest I ever went, was in the Mustang. I don't recommend on a freeway.
I
Don't
think
do
the
that.
fast. I'm pretty sure the fast because I've never done any never been in any race car or anything
No,
like that.
me neither.
I think that the fastest that I've ever gone in a terrestrial vehicle. I'm pretty
Not
sure.
your UFO.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was probably. If I had to guess, it probably would have been when Rob Roode had that Mazda RX-7, and I remember instances here and there where he'd be trying to show off,
Yeah.
driving fast in the RX-7, and so I would imagine that probably at some point he had hit somewhere over 100 miles an hour,
Yeah.
but probably not much more than 100 miles an hour in a car.
This one's easy for me. Number 8. What's the farthest you've ever walked or run in a single session?
What is it?
Ultra marathon.
Oh yeah.
3 days at the fair, which is an ultra marathon in New Jersey at the fairgrounds. You have 24 hours to do as many miles as you can. And I did 64 miles in 24 hours. So 68 if you count all my walking to the bathroom and my breaks, not breaks, but
Right.
like I would stop and go to the bathroom and then stop and go change my shoes, but I wasn't really stopping. I was on the clock the whole time.
Right.
You're being timed the whole time. So yeah, in 24 hours I did 68 miles total, but I got clocked. You have to go around, it's a 1 mile track, and I went around it 64 times.
Right.
So I did 64 miles in 24 hours. Top that, people. 64 miles. Everyone's like, that is. And before that, the longest I had done was my ultra marathons,
Right.
which are 32 miles.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I can't be 100% sure.
Because you don't always measure, like, you just do
Yeah, I'm not
hikes,
always
but
measuring. I mean, I know that like when like yeah, I guess maybe if you're I don't know, are we talking like steps per day? Because if we're doing
No,
steps
this
per
is
day,
ever walked or run in a single session.
In a
like,
single
as
session.
I'm saying like a hike or a race or like.
All right, hold on.
Yeah, in a single session means walked or ran in a single session. So that's more like
I
doing it
think, like,
specifically.
Yeah, yeah. That's a hard question. That's one of those ones where there might be something shocking to me. I think that one time I remember years and years ago, I broke down at like 12 Mile and Telegraph, and I walked all the way home.
Holy crap.
So that was a pretty long walk.
Yeah.
And it was literally one session. And
Yeah.
I didn't even like stop to go to the bathroom. That was pretty long.
Yeah, it's hard to say if you're not a person who races
I'm not a
or
person.
does, who does like ultras or does like marathons or anything. Or if you're not a hiker who measures your miles or something. But you've done 10-mile hikes, like no problem.
Sure,
So,
but I
mean,
think that walk home was worse.
farther than that, yeah,
than-
probably. Especially because you didn't plan it. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
Number 9, what is the most expensive restaurant you've ever dined at? Your restaurant was probably, I can honestly say that I think I know the most expensive one you've dined at because we took you to brunch there the day that you came into New York City for my wedding.
Oh, yeah.
And Jamie was freaking out because it was like there were 4 of us and it was like $100 each for us to eat. Like,
Yeah. What was the name of that place?
that was at oh my god, not Le Cirque, but not Le Cirque, but it was like something.
Yeah,
like,
something
it was
like that.
It was I'd have to look it up.
Yeah,
but,
it was pretty. That was a pretty expensive.
It's
one.
basically where it is
What were we eating prosciutto and
we were in Grand Central Station. And it's the restaurant that's the balcony
like
overlooking
upstairs,
Grand
yeah.
Central. It's upstairs. I'll have to look it up, but I could probably find it. But
I thought, yeah, that was an enjoyable dining experience.
that was. Do
Let's
you
go.
remember? But do you remember what we ordered?
Well, I remember.
do. Lots of bellinis. I had like the bellinis were like, and the drinks alone, just those bellinis were like $24 a bellini or something like that.
I remember we had like some melon and prosciutto.
It
like,
was the Melon Tower.
Yeah, melon tower.
Yes, the Melon Prosciutto Tower.
And I don't remember what entree I had, but I'm sure it was.
I think. I'm trying to think what else we had. We each got because we got the prosciutto tower that was like huge, and it was this huge like, triple tier, quadruple tier, and they had all the prosciutto. It was like a prosciutto fountain.
Yeah.
And then they had the melon balls all in it and everything, and Grand Central Station restaurant. I'm trying to see if I can find it because it's driving me crazy.
It might not even be
Cipriani.
Cipriani. Yeah,
That was it. It's called It's Cipriani. And in case you think of Cipriani, they're going into Cipriani without a reservation. It was in the Thomas Crown Affair,
Oh yeah.
the remake with Pierce Brosnan. And it's one of the really expensive restaurants that he takes what's her name to. They go into Cipriani, but there's a Cipriani restaurant in New York City, but Cipriani also had this Grand Central Terminal one. So that's where we ate. So that is probably one of the most expensive places I've eaten at. The other one, I ate at a whole bunch of expensive restaurants in Detroit. We ate at the Whitney all the time in Detroit.
It's true.
And-
I don't remember if it was more or less.
And we also ate at
The
Van Dyke Place because we had friends who were chefs in Detroit. So we got to eat at a lot of very expensive restaurants. And also, Jamie always took me to all those medical dinners. And I went to a medical dinner at the Whitney. I went to a medical dinner at the one of the
Yeah,
fancy
that was
restaurants in the
Carlton.
high. Yeah, so yeah, we didn't really have to pay for it. We had I had to pay for it. I had to sit through doctors lecturing
Right.
and slides and it's like, I'm like focused on the drinks and the food. But anyway, and everybody would have inevitably asked me, "Are you a doctor?" I'm like, "Oh God, no."
One time years ago, Jay and I, we were in Santa Fe. We took a day trip to Santa Fe when I was out in Albuquerque, and we ate at a pretty fancy restaurant. And I think that it might have been pretty. I don't remember what the bill was, but. Because it was like a wine pairing dinner too, which always,
Jacks the price
runs
up.
that price
Yeah.
up. So per meal, that might have been pretty close. That might have been tying with Cipriani. you know.
And same with, I was thinking like, Jamie and I, when we were in Philadelphia, we went to Morimoto, which was Morimoto's first restaurant that he opened
Right.
there. Like, and it was just called Morimoto. And this is before he started doing the chain ones and doing more of them.
Yeah.
And this place was so fancy and so nice. And we did the, I talked about another video where we did the chef's tasting
Right.
appetizer thingy with the sushi and all that. And between the drinks and the sake and everything, that was an expensive night. Just to go to Morimoto, like you walked in there, it was like there were not just like touristy rando people in there. It was very super mega upscale. So that was also a great dinner. So last one, and I know my answer to this now. I just realized looking out my window. Number 10, what's the largest predator you've seen in the wild, not in a zoo? That giant bear in my backyard trying to get in my chicken coop.
Right.
That thing was freaking huge.
Predator.
Huge.
not
And
really.
yeah, and the black bears here in Pennsylvania are definitely very large predators. My husband just told me to, and I was like, oh, they're nice. They're not afraid of us, whatever. And I guess just last week he said a woman in New Jersey was mauled by a black bear. So let's be nice to the bears in the yard and let's not poke them and say, cute Mr. Fuzzy Wuzzy.
Yeah. I wonder
but
under
yeah,
what
there was
circumstances.
I don't know, but that one that we saw, it was standing there looking at the door to my chicken yard,
Oh no.
and just the height of its back was, I can't imagine if that thing stood up, like how big it was. That thing was huge, and it was really scary because it was backlit. We had the motion light went on, so it was like the motion light, and then you just see the silhouette of this giant bear
Right.
standing and staring at the door to my coop area going, how do I get in there? And it might be the same one that got in there before, because I showed Jeremy that a bear had tried to get into it a couple of years ago, and there's claw marks in the wood. Like deep in the wood, there's giant claw marks, and it ripped the top of the door off, and there's claw
Right.
marks in it, and it's still there. And it was like years ago, but yeah, they'll try to get stuff down, and there's like, so yeah, it's scary. One of them tried to get in the chicken yard and just was ripping everything down a couple of years ago. So fortunately, we saw this one on the cameras, and the motion lights went on. But seeing the silhouette of it, it was the biggest one I've seen in our yard. And I have been outside in our yard, and when there's been bears in the yard too, which is kind of scary.
So myself personally, and it's not that exciting because I think that probably realistically the biggest predator I've ever seen, not in a zoo with my own eyes, probably an alligator.
Oh,
And from far and from not like right on top of me. So
I've
not
seen the
super
one. Yeah,
exciting.
when we went to Florida, I
Yeah.
saw, like, we went through the Everglades.
And I
and
saw
stuff, but,
alligators
yeah.
that I saw that were more than likely 8, 9, 10 or more
Yeah.
feet long, but they were, they were over there, so it really
right.
wasn't that
That's still seeing them in
technically
the
wild.
Yeah,
Yes,
technically.
but
Yeah, this one in the wild, my backyard is the wild. So, yeah, I've seen, we've had like packs of coyotes in our yard, which is not
yeah,
pleasant.
coyotes are little. They're little.
But when there's like 10 of them and they're in a semicircle
Yeah.
staring you down, they're pretty, all the hair on my arm stood up. I was like, I gotta get out of here. And the worst thing was I had my flashlight on and I went like this and all I saw was this semicircle of glowing eyes staring at me. And I started stomping my feet and trying to yell at them and scare them off. And then I looked again and they hadn't moved. It was still all the same eyes staring at me. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to back away and go in my house now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were just like not even having it. They're like, we know that there's more of us than you, and we're not threatened. But I ended up kind of like making more noise with it. But I'm like,
They're
I'm going in the
skulky.
house. Yeah, they're very
skulky.
Yeah, I mean, but we have a lot of smaller predators here. There's a lot of foxes. There's a lot of raccoons and things. Everything's out to kill my chickens, but the bears were the worst. Okay, so that's all the questions. That was all 10. That was interesting.
Uh-huh.
It's funny how, like I said, it's a conversation starter. You start getting triggered to like remember things. That
Right.
I'm like, oh crap, I forgot I did that. Like I forgot, working at Pepsi in the cashier's office.
Handling all that
Oh
money.
my God, it was like ridiculous amounts. And when they would have like, there would be like really big things going on. Like the most money we had, and see, I can't even remember. The most money we would have come in, of all things, which was really funny, was 4th of July, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. Those were the days that the drivers were out late, all the merchandisers, we'd be out late. At the cashier's office, we'd be getting home at like 10, 11 at night. So
On
we'd
the
be there
actual
forever.
day.
Leading up to
Oh,
it.
leading up to
yeah,
it.
the day before the weekend before whatever weekend.
Right.
Like before Memorial Day started, those days leading up to it. Because all the stores were like going crazy,
I
stocking.
love their Pepsi.
Yeah, pop.
Pop.
Stocking their pop in
Stocking
Detroit.
pop.
Stocking all the stores with pop in Detroit. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, oh my God. That's something I thought, and I liked having that out of my memory. I'm scarred for life from holidays with Pepsi.
I guess there's worse things you can do.
Yeah, there is.
There are worse things I could do.
Then count money for Pepsi.
Count money.
So, yeah, but so that is all the answers to those questions. And I think next week, next week, I think my questions come up in the group. So, yay.
What's the highest you've ever been in a building? I know my answer.
And on that note, thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and come back for more goofiness. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.